Hey, Sox fans, welcome to episode 221 of Good Guys Talk Back. I am Nick Murawski. This is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. You can find it absolutely everywhere you find your podcast. Also, check out our YouTube channel. Subscribe. Join us. We try to do live shows on Sunday night, 8:30. It depends. Tonight, 8:30. What a weekend for our White Sox. What a homestand. Lots of good things to get to. Joining me, as always, my very good friend, diehard Sox fan, Pat Hester. Hello, sir.
Buddy, happy sweep of the Royals. Royal revenge, as they were,
I love it.
panning it on Comcast Sportsnet,
Sure.
which was, or NBC Sports rather, which is, was hilarious when it's Royals revenge and they were getting ready to hype up this series. But it was nice to get a series sweep, which is fun. 6 out of 5 or, 5 out of 6, either way, whatever way you want to spin it, whatever math you do. I thought we were going to run the table, but that's okay. It was a good week of White Sox baseball. It's nice to be talking about some wins. We're accomplishing the things that I want to get accomplished. Back to 10 under. Now just keep taking a bite at the apple, my man.
Yeah, the last time we talked, it was a rough weekend for the Sox. They were just starting this 13-game stretch against AL Central opponents, and here they are, 5-1 against the Guardians and the Royals. They've got the Guardians and Tigers coming up. Sox first sweep of the year of the Kansas City Royals, and each game was great. I mean, there's just a lot of fun baseball this past weekend. Some real beautiful weather in the South Side. Sox 19-29. Okay, they're 10 games under 500. And we're looking at standings still. I mean, I do it from after like the first series. I'm looking at standings, and that really is not the way to go, I think, right now. But they're 6.5 back as we record. But it's really looking at this stretch that they're on now, and they're going to continue in Cleveland. This is what I think this is critical. It's a critical stretch. They've been playing a better brand of baseball. The bullpen's unhittable right now, which we can talk in specifics. Starters have been great. Guys, picking up other guys. Sometimes you're not going to have the home run. Now, there was some fun stuff in the Cleveland series where they had back-to-back games where they had 3 home runs, but you're not going to live on that. So you got to find other ways. And they went on a stretch where they didn't hit a home run until Luis Robert Jr. Got one on Sunday. Jake Burger, man, I definitely want to get into your thoughts, Pat, on how to figure this one out with getting Burger in the lineup consistently with Eloy coming back. So any specific takeaways that you had from the week or maybe just the weekend with the Sox going 5-1?
Well, I think we've seen, not like the bar was very high, but we've seen some better execution. We've seen some, moving runners along. We've seen some, sacrifice flies here and there and things that weren't happening for this team. It was like he had to get 3 hits in order to get a run in, for crying out loud. And so that excites me actually more than hitting the ball at the ballpark, is executing, getting runners in with, less than 2 outs. And a runner on third. So that's what I take away from it. It shows me that maybe this offense, after almost like seeming like forever, is actually getting to the point where it's like, okay, how do we execute this situation? Oh, that's right. We should probably try and hit a fly ball and get this run in. So that's what I like to see. You mentioned it too, with Joe Kelly. I mean, a man possessed right now. This is the guy that we were hoping for when we brought him in last year, was this kind of a pitcher. He's been on some kind of a tear. Came in and closed. I don't know if it counts as a close today. I think it did. Right? Does it count for a close today? I think it does. 3 runs coming in that situation. So again, nailed it down for the Sox again today. Just that's been a nice turnaround. So those types of things, you mentioned the home runs and they're always great, but I think the offensive execution, timely hitting, and the bullpen is really what stood out for me.
The bullpen in this Kansas City series, 7 innings, 1 hit, 0 runs, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. And to your point, Joe Kelly is absolutely unhittable. Nasty, nasty stuff. I don't think he's given up like anything in his last 8-9 appearances, and a lot of strikeouts.
Yeah.
He's got tons of movement. He's a guy that I just, I haven't been able to figure out. I don't know if anybody has. We kind of knew, okay, this guy's got some potential when he came on with the Sox last year, but coming off of some injuries, sometimes his control, good Lord, I don't know what you're going to get. And then I thought the pitch clock was going to be a little bit problematic, but he seems to have definitely found his way. And that's huge. You got Garrett Crochet coming back, who has got that fastball back up to 97. Nowhere near maybe pre-Tommy John right now, but a valuable asset out of the bullpen. A lefty power arm coming back. And Liam Hendricks, man, it looks like he could be any day. I don't know. I don't know if we've got an official timetable. It's like Grifol is checking in on Hendricks, and Hendricks is up for what everybody wants to do. And it's like, well, you know yourself best. Like, there's no real date for something like this, but
Yeah.
it could I feel like it could happen at any moment.
Do you wait for the next homestand just because, or is it, it's a baseball season. You need one of your best relievers back in the bullpen. Doesn't matter if it's home or away.
Oh, if he's ready to go, I
Yeah.
think you bring him. We need
Yeah.
it. These games are so important. It's a shame that it didn't work out at home, but good, that's not important. The fact that
Yeah.
he has been able to, get healthy and kick cancer's butt, and what he's doing in Charlotte, and just the whole story. I think if he's ready to go, the clubhouse is just going to be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
They're going to be overjoyed when he comes back, home or away. But for the fans' sake, his first home game, though, I mean, that's going to be madness.
Do you bring him back? Because I don't remember where I heard this, but there was some chatter of, do you bring him back in and just kind of let him get his feet wet? Or do you bring him right into where he's, do what he's paid to do, and that's close ball games out? Or do you kind of let him get his sea legs a little bit, just bring him into a relief opportunity, no matter where it is?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not in there on those conversations.
They're not.
I am not.
They don't consult you yet.
I'm not hip to
the mayor of Bridgeport, Nick Murawski, shaking hands and kissing babies in Lot B today.
What a great day to tailgate in Lot B, by the way.
Yeah.
It's look, I think you put him right back in the ninth spot.
Yeah.
Ninth inning spot. I mean, this guy, he's gone on and he said, look, hey, if I give up a hit, I'm going to be absolutely ticked off. If I give up a walk, I am ticked off. Like I've got as much energy, passion, and intent on this game as I did before. And I think he holds himself to such a high standard. I think he would look at someone putting him in the sixth or the seventh as, dare I say, like feeling sorry for him or something, that he wouldn't be able to handle the ninth. I mean, if he's back on the club, ready to go, he's your ninth man.
Yeah. And maybe this is a perfect time to bring him back on the road, where maybe the emotion doesn't get to him, because let him get his sea legs that way in closed situations, get him out there. And then, because it's going to be an emotional roller coaster for him when he gets back home. And if the fans know he's going to be back, I think they come out, dare I say, in droves to support him, because he's become such a fan favorite. I mean, I would, if I had the opportunity to go see him when they're back in town in LA or versus LA, and there's an opportunity to see him pitch or see him in the bullpen or, whatever. I think people are coming out to see that, regardless of the fact that it's the Angels and it's Shohei Ohtani and all that stuff too.
Yeah, and if he comes back in Cleveland, or if he comes back in Detroit, hey, those fan base has been around for a long time. There's some good baseball fans everywhere, but I would say that you'd get Cleveland and Detroit fans giving him a standing ovation when he runs out, just because of what he has done and what he has accomplished and the magnitude of that. I don't know. I don't know the situation exactly, like how it's going to all play out, but it's an awesome, like, the fact that we're talking about this is so great. And another big boost, I think, for this club in terms of chemistry and how much he means to the group, how well respected he is. So That's all good. Sydney, a great point in the comments. Clevenger, now on the IL with a wrist issue. I know there's supposed to be, there's going to be a roster move made. We'll see. I don't know. As we're recording, I haven't heard anything. Who's got the nod on Monday in Cleveland? This the thought of maybe Jesse Schultens, that he's going to be your arm, because Davis Martin, of course, went and had Tommy John surgery. But what did you like of the lineup? Sunday lineup, going for the sweep. It was a bit of an interesting lineup, in my opinion.
Well, I'm not a fan of Sunday lineups to begin with, but when you're 10 games under 500, I really don't like them, because every game is important. And I don't like the idea of, listen, it's a getaway day. I'm sorry. I was thinking about this today, Nick, and I don't know if this is a dumb comment, meatball type comment or not. If your team's winning, you've earned the opportunity to have Sunday lineups. This team has not earned the opportunity to have Sunday lineups. Is that crazy? Am I saying something out of bounds? I'm sorry, you don't have an opportunity. We need every game. We need our best team on the field.
All hands on deck. That is a term that has been talked about a lot on the pre and post and NBC Sports Chicago with Chuck and Ozzy, of course. And I echo that, especially when you have a chance to sweep and build some more momentum going into Monday, into Cleveland, which it's going to be a tough place. You're going to see Jose Ramirez. He'll be back in the lineup, most likely Josh Naylor, two guys that we didn't really have to deal with too much. Ramirez not at all. Naylor for like a game or half a game or something when we face the Guardians here on the South Side. So TA got a day off. He eventually got into the lineup when Cactus League legend Hanser Alberto decided to call himself safe when running down the base paths to try to beat out a bunt, and it looked like he tore some sort of rotator cuff. I am sorry to laugh about this, but I have never seen anything quite like that in my life. I'm watching this after joining you at your tailgate. I'm like, all right. We went back. I got back home watching the game, and I just was I had to actually take a video of that and like say, almost for prosperity, to have this, because I've never seen. I mean, you've seen people running, trying to beat a bunt out or a single, whatever, and they're like just reaction and how violent Hanser Alberto, or maybe just because, I don't know, that arm is just not worked properly. I don't know. He crumpled into a pile and he had to leave the game. I mean, that one's an all-timer. I'm sorry. And it's been a wild, last couple of years for the Sox team. That one's nuts. Rumor is like he'll avoid the IL, but oh man, that was not a good look. So what are you gonna do?
I didn't see it. I didn't see it live, because that was when I was in the Xfinity Kids Zone with my kids, and I got sent a video, and just the text said, "You can't make this stuff up," or something like that. I'm like, "What? Oh Lord, what happened now? What did I miss?" You kind of don't see a lot. I'm waiting in line for something with the kids, and then I'm like, what am I looking at here? I didn't know. I thought somebody assaulted him. I thought maybe somebody shot him with a BB gun, or what happened here? What is going on?
Daryl Boston tripped him or something.
Daryl Boston
could never be
runs a type ship.
Yeah. Yeah, he's untouchable over there. That was bizarre. So TA did get in, and so he didn't start the game, but Grifol said, some of the reasoning is not necessarily because TA's been scuffling, which he absolutely has, is because he's played a lion's share of the game since coming back from this knee sprain, which he also has, maybe 15 of 16, something like that, before getting the day off. But I say, to your point, like, hey man, this is a tough game. Everybody's dealing with something, and do not take the Royals lightly. You could get into one rough game and it could spiral. I just think you had to keep at it. Vaughn had a day off as well. he's I don't know if that one, I don't know what was going on with that. I didn't hear a reasoning of that. If that was like to rest the legs, some sort of workload management,
Can
or
I
if that
ask a
was
question
just
about resting legs? What are these guys doing with their legs every day? I mean, my goodness gracious, are they like deadlifting 1,000 pounds after each game? Oh, they're going to rest. It was leg day
yeah.
today. I mean,
I
my goodness
don't
gracious.
I don't know. Look, I have no idea what the stretching program is like over there. I don't know the agility, all this other stuff, what goes into it. I would wonder, I would like to know if it's possible for conditioning staff to get someone that runs long distance or somebody that really conditions their legs well. And that's, man, to the type of stretches that you need to do, the hip flexor stretches, the rolling, man, the foam roller, just to kind of, get the tendons all loosey goosey. I don't know. Is it worth having somebody like that on staff? I don't know what happened to Andrew Vaughn.
Just the
I just
foam
know
roller
that
guy.
hey, look, I'm
You
just a
should have
foam roller guy.
sold foam rollers, daughter. That could have been your career. I'm telling you,
Just
you have been an
don't ask
advocate for
me. I'm
foam
just
rollers.
the foam roller
You've
guy.
got stock in foam rollers. It's amazing. You go
Have
back
you
to
ever
that.
used a foam roller?
I have.
Okay.
I
All
have.
right.
They're uncomfortable.
Well, that's because you might be doing it wrong, but
Well,
it's
I'm sure.
supposed to be slightly uncomfortable. You got to knead out that knot that you have in your thigh or in your calf or whatever. Like it'll get
Okay.
better, and then it'll be just velvety smooth, and
Gotcha.
yeah, everything will be fine. I think they maybe gave Vaughn a rest because he's he just hasn't been performing very well lately.
Mhm.
But I'm not too worried about Andrew Vaughn. I know there's a lot of people that are worried about him, and there's all kinds of fun, numbers that will back that up. I get it. He is not where people wanted him to be right now. I thought he'd be performing a little bit better, but my biggest worry had been the bullpen and the starting rotation.
Yeah.
You're not going to get back up to 500 and beyond or hang with anybody if you don't have pitching,
Mhm.
and the bullpen, especially like with starters not going 5 or 6, which has changed recently. And you're
Mhm.
asking a awful bullpen to log that many more innings. I thought that was just a recipe for disaster. All that needed to change. Obviously, offense is critical. Power is critical for this team. That's kind of how they were built in a way. But now that the starting pitching is pretty much back, I don't know what's going to happen with this Clevenger spot, but was really impressed with, Michael Kopech. I mean, can we
Oh,
spend
wow.
just a minute or two, maybe 5 on Michael Kopech? That outing he had on Friday to kick off the weekend, that was unprecedented. I mean, that
Well,
you've never seen anything like that from him.
yeah, let's just start with because I think there's been maybe a little bit of a dialogue out there. Well, it was the Royals. Let's not give him too much credit. The dude was dealing, and the fact that he went 8 innings, no walks, 10 strikeouts, and had faced the minimum, and the team eventually faced the minimum for the game. That's an impressive game. I mean, I don't care who you're facing.
Well, that stuff he had on Friday would have beat just about anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it was he was able to put whatever pitch he wanted where he wanted it. There was so much life. There was giddy up on that
Hmm.
fastball. He was just in command.
Yeah.
He was absolutely command, and he talked about it in post game, mechanically and mental. Mental is really big for him,
Yeah.
being able to just kind of wrap his brain around everything that's going on, and he has a balance off of the field. And but his previous start, 4 2/3 innings, 6 walks. He only gave up like 1 hit. It wasn't a horrible outing, but man, when you give up that many walks, your pitch count is astronomical. You're doing the team a disservice.
Hmm.
And he's got the stuff. We all know he has the stuff. Haven't seen it like for consistent stretches, but on Friday, he recorded an out in the 8th inning for the first time in his Major League Baseball career. I mean,
That's something.
that is really, what a, he's come a long way.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for stuff like this.
Yeah.
Now, is he going to do this again? His next start? No, it's very rare that you're going to have your A++ stuff with you, back-to-back starts. Sometimes it's like it's here every now and then. And that's the beauty of pitching. You got to figure out how to make the most out of what you have. And sometimes it's like B stuff. Sometimes it's C+. When it's A++, it's like you better have your command and just, hey, set it and forget it. But with him, I think this is such a good building block. And okay, it happened against the Royals. Great. It was nice that our, we did not have our offense going, so we needed that kind of start on Friday. But I don't care about if it was against the Royals or not. It was Michael Kopech. That's big for him, and of course for this rotation.
Well, I really enjoyed, obviously the command was fantastic. You talked about the life on the fastball. I don't know that the fastball was, necessarily much faster than it has been all year. Maybe it was a mile or, but it was that rising fastball that was able to get guys out. It
seemed like the last few feet before home plate, it just takes off.
It has that pop. It has that rise, which makes it a lot. Before that, most of it was just flat, and it's a flat fastball, and it's easy to hit. When he's pitching like that up in the zone, especially left-handers, they've got no shot. They really have no shot of doing anything with it. So, and the slider, he was able to throw a slider whenever he wanted it, right? I think he threw a slider to get somebody out. It was a 3-1 count. I don't remember who it was, but he threw a nasty slider, and obviously wasn't a strikeout, but he got the out. And it's like, wow, you wouldn't think. Normally, Michael Kopech probably not throwing a 3-1 slider there because he doesn't want to walk him. But he had such confidence and such control, and Sebi was just putting the right fingers down. It was Sebi catching him, doing a great job behind the plate catching him, and unfortunately just a little broken bat, single that ended it. But it was great, and it was fun to watch. And I was watching the game with my 6-year-old, now 7-year-old, and normally he's up and moving around, and we're playing catch or something while we're watching the game, and he's like, I'm like, you need to come over and just sit and watch this game. Just really focus in. And he's like, why? I'm like, just really watch. Just really
watch. Brian Regan bit there.
Yeah. Just really intently watch this. And it was fun. It was, you wish for that all the time. You're not going to get it all the time, like you had mentioned, but listen, that's something you can draw back on. Now he's got a little something and go, okay, I've gotten into the 8th inning before. I've been able to overcome this and overcome that. Those are the experiences you can draw on now. And hopefully he becomes the pitcher that we want him to be for the rest of the year. But time will tell.
Yeah. It be up until Friday. It was like, well, I've never gone into the 8th. I've never had success in the 8th. And now he can build off of this, and he's got some video proof, and he can work on just maintaining that repeatable motion, the mechanics, and hopefully keeping, the mental aspect of it solid and working on that. But that was huge. I mean, I was tracking the starting pitching this past week compared to the previous week, and how they were handling specifically counts when they had 2 strikes on a hitter. How did they handle that? Because I've seen lately, up until this past homestand, which was much better, I mean, I just have seen uncompetitive pitches with 2 strikes, go way too much of the zone. And it was different. There was an approach that, even with Lynn, like hitting up at the top of the zone, guys really mixing up eye levels and playing with the corners. And that I like to see that, because there's some growth there. Yeah. You obviously have a new plan. Like you figured out what wasn't working, and you put some new things in place. That I like to see. That gets me excited of like, oh, okay, this team actually does some sort of preparation. Like they're trying to improve, on some of their blind spots. So, get starting pitching, bullpen, exciting stuff. The Jake Burger, I don't know if we can call it summer of Burger, but this is a season right now for Jake Burger that I never thought it was going to come to this. I didn't think he was going to have the opportunity. a few injuries here and there, and he was able to get an opportunity. He just absolutely forced his way, to stay on this club. And I don't know what to make of an Eloy Jimenez return. The whole Berger to second, or Pedro Grifol even entertaining an idea of going to the outfield. I saw that
good.
bubble up
Oh.
a couple days ago. Grifol even spent some time talking about it, said that the conversation has been had, but he said it might not be the best. Hey,
You
that's
think?
where this, yeah.
You think?
But that's what the Sox have themselves into here, between Sheets and Berger, who they homered in back-to-back games
Yeah.
early in this past homestand. Sheets, man, when he's hot, you just got to ride that hand. And they gave him, I believe, a day off on that third game of the Cleveland series, because there was a lefty on the mound, which is the handedness stuff just drives me crazy. But that's how, playing the percentages, that's how they're doing things. So
thank you, Mr. Burns.
But Berger, Sheets, and now Jimenez, do you have thoughts on, have you tried to think about how this can be? When will guys play? When will there be breathers? Will you platoon certain positions?
I think they should go to softball rules. My daughter's team, 12U, it doesn't matter if you're in the field or not, everybody hits. Right. So just let everybody hit. 26-man rotation or roster. Everybody hits no matter what. I honestly don't know, Nick. I mean, he's earned a spot on this roster, and he's is he there situationally, a pinch hit opportunity here and there? Is he going to give a guy a day off here or there? I'd like to get him more at bats, but I don't know how that's going to happen. Honestly, Nick, I hate to say it, but eventually Eloy will go down, and we won't be worried about this conversation.
Oh, you really think it's a matter of time before Jimenez has another injury?
I mean, history tells me he will.
Yeah.
And maybe it won't be catastrophic. Maybe there won't be another organ that fails that has to be removed, but maybe it's something else for a short stint, and he's going to be available.
I'll tell you what, right now, he has sometimes, I think I've seen him try to call himself safe after running things out.
Oh, Lord.
I think there needs to be just a whole team, just kind of memo, or just something on the plane to Cleveland. Look, let's not do that anymore. Let's not call ourselves
got to
safe.
run. Remember when it was Molly Shannon when she guest starred on Seinfeld, and she didn't move her arms when she walked?
That's right.
That's everybody just run down to first with their arms straight down.
Well, they've got a back pocket, but yeah, there needs to be some sort of or just Boston tries to bear hug them after they get past the base somehow, so they limit their arms from flailing around. I mean, the problem with all of this musical chair stuff, it's great to have some kind of like depth, this weird kind of three-headed monster depth of Sheets, Berger, Eloy. Eloy can play a little bit of right field. He can DH. Berger can DH. He can play first. He can play third. I don't think they're going to put him at second. And Sheets can play first. Sheets can DH. He's been playing a lot of right field. I personally don't like him out there in right field, but he has to you need his bat. Yeah. So that has been always the problem with Gavin Sheets. So the issue is consistency. When Eloy got hurt last year, and you're going to ask me, well, which time? It was later in the season or mid-season, was one of his injuries. And he was being rested. He came back, he'd play a few games, then he'd sit. He'd play a few games and he'd sit. And I think I've talked about this before. And he was very open, in the media, and said, it's tough for me to get into a groove when that's happening. Yeah. When I'm just sitting on the bench being used every 2 or 3 games. Now, when he started DHing, he was playing every day and he caught fire. And Berger's been playing regularly and he's been able to catch fire. I don't know if that would happen if he was just being used every now and then. That is very difficult to do, to just come off the bench. And, it's tough. It's not for everybody. Now, it's going to have to happen though.
Yeah.
that's the situation that they have for themselves. But I don't think Moncada's going to second and Berger's going to play third. I don't think that's a thing that Grifol wants to do, just from some of his comments recently.
Yeah, I think, oh boy, I've entertained this crazy thought before, but if I had to choose between one person playing second and the other, it's Yohan Moncada, right? I mean, I'd rather have Berger at a position he's actually played and played more recently than having him try and figure out second base and turning a double play. I mean, is that crazy?
It's not crazy, but then you got to look at it Moncada's angle. It's like, well, he hasn't played second in a while. And if he's really comfortable at third, then I like what he's been doing with the bat. He seems to be somewhat consistent lately since he's come back. And Ricky Renteria made a comment many years ago after that switch when Moncada went to third. And Ricky said something to the effect of, at second base, there can be a lot of downtime and you can just kind of get lost in the game out there, meaning you have mind lapses. You might not be as sharp when the ball's hit to you, and that could carry over with the bat. Ricky made a point of, when we moved him to third, you have to be on at all times. It's such a reactionary position. And we saw then it carry over with the bat. I don't think you're going to move Moncada from third. I know he can play second, but I don't think that's what they're going to want to do for him. And then you've got Elvis Andrus that could be back relatively soon. So that there's that you're playing with the chemistry too. And I think chemistry is important. You might have a group of guys that it just hits with these guys for some reason. And then you think on paper, well, by adding these guys back in, we should have a better lineup. But it doesn't work out that way sometimes. So there's a lot of decisions that need to be made. I don't think we need to deal with it too soon. Although Jimenez has talked about wanting to come back, maybe this week, maybe by next weekend. I don't know.
Well, that seems, isn't that early? That's early timeline.
That's much earlier. That's probably
like
2 to
3 years
early
or something, I heard. And you said you should come back from an appendectomy in like a couple of days and be fine and play.
I thought it was 4 to 6 weeks.
Mike Tyson knockout, and you're great.
Well, when I had my appendix out, I was in third grade, and they did it differently. The procedure was just, now it's just like a small little incision. It's all lasers, I'm sure, and you're back on your feet doing normal, whatever, but probably not playing baseball or any type of athletic sport. For me, it was like I was in the hospital for a couple days after the procedure, but then I got back to Mike Tyson's Punch Out and, Excite Bike and the normal 10-year-old video game activities rather quickly. So
do you put a foam roller on that wound and
roll that tender? Out? Very tender.
You gotta let that go.
That's not a soft tissue situation.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah,
I do it all wrong. I've been using,
maybe that's been the problem.
I've been using my foam roller as a joust, like on American Gladiators.
Oh, well, of course that would be, if we had foam rollers at kids, when that show Nitro and these other folks would come on, that foam roller would have been destroyed from some sort of reenactment.
Well, I'm excited to see him back because he went down and he was playing good baseball, right? He was a force in the lineup, and I think Stoney had talked about it, like this lineup is going to be revived and back, and things are coming back, and it lengthens the lineup, but I don't know. It seemed like a pretty long lineup with Jake Berger in there every day too. So. And then maybe it's a situation, Nick, too, where you look at it and go, well, Jake has been so productive at home. Maybe you're looking at him getting in the lineup more, for home games and less on the road. He's got one home run, I think, on the road, and the rest of them are all at home. He likes hitting at guaranteed rate field. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but unfortunately, it might be just a matchup situation. Who matches up best against this pitcher tonight? Where do I need my best fielder? Where can I kind of hide somebody in the field today? Where can I get a DH? And then I don't know. It's just, it's a lot of mix and match situation, I guess.
Do you find Hanser Alberto to give you a lot of value these days?
Uh, well, not really. Yeah, I mean, he's just a guy, Nick. I mean, he's just a guy. He's a
Some
brick and
dude.
mortar guy,
He's just,
and you can
yeah.
find those guys in a lot of places.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel like his days to me are kind of done. Some of the stuff that he's been doing lately, he's gotten very bunt happy, and
Yeah.
I don't quite understand where his mentality has been at with that. And look, I don't think Lenine Sosa is the absolute answer right now, but if you're gonna go with a guy that might be your future. I don't know. Sosa seems to be more of your future than Hans or Alberto. The Sox kind of are. I feel like they've got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Of
Yeah.
are we playing for tomorrow or are we playing for today? And I think this 13 game stretch might give them some clarity on that. But obviously, the rumors swirl. Whether it's Giolito or Joe Kelly, who are other teams, knocking on the door. Well, that'd be kind of weird if they flew and just knocked on the door and just say, "Hey, just thought I'd just check in on these players." Who are they, calling Han about in the White Sox? And there's the TA stuff. Do you think TA at all would get moved? At the deadline.
You know what, Nick? As it stands right now, it's 6.5 out. Even though you're 10 games under, you're 6.5 out. And I get the conversation that's had a lot, and I understand why. If we were in this division, we'd be, in last place by a bunch. We would be 10 games behind the worst team in that division, or we'd be, But the reality is, we can't change that. We are in the division we're in. The mighty Twins are 3 games over and lead this division over us by 6.5 games, which is insane to me to even think about. So the division has decided again to wait for us. And I don't think that you can, in your right mind, right now, be entertaining moving anybody. When it gets closer to the deadline, maybe that's a different story. But if you move Giolito, you have to get a pitcher back in return. Right. And it's got to be a guy in the future. You can't just trade. They shouldn't be in the business of trading a pitcher and not getting one back. Right. You've got to fill that.
Well, their farm
Not that
system is
particular
just
spot.
so weak.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got nothing there ready to help us out.
Yeah.
It's a bad situation. Yeah, I don't know. You're probably, if people are calling, you're like, okay, well, just stay tuned because we're in one of the worst divisions of all time, and anybody could win this division. The Tigers are like what, 3 games out or something, maybe less. I don't know. No one thought that was going to be happening. No one thought the Sox were going to be this bad. So yeah, maybe it's stay tuned, but outside of May, and I'm trying to stay in the present, but once you get to June and July, though, this schedule gets different. I mean, you've got the Yankees, you've got the Marlins, you've got the Dodgers, you've got Seattle, Texas, Boston, the Angels in June. I mean,
June is not going to be quite as much of a cakewalk as May is, but who knows what kind of momentum you have built up, right? I mean, they started out this year, as we all saw, it was awful, and the losing became so contagious. We couldn't get out of our own way. If the ball is rolling downhill and the hill is full of ice and you're gaining some momentum and you're a locomotive that's out of control, does it matter who you play? I mean, it's usually about, not who you play, it's when you play them type of thing. Yeah. I don't know what the Yankees are going to be like in June. Neither do you. We do have Miami on the schedule. Detroit is, a surprise right now, but will they be continuing to play what they're, the way they're playing? I don't really know. And, Boston at the end of June, again, it's, I don't know. I don't know what to expect out of all this stuff. Things change, injuries happen. And again, the team may just feel different about itself. Maybe it's the team that we envisioned when we talked about this team winning 90 plus games when we, previewed the season. I really don't know. So I'm not really about like looking at strength of schedule in June. I'm just more worried about how is this team playing. We've talked about that before, Nick. Okay, if they lose a game, they're going to lose games, Nick. That's baseball. But how did they look losing it? Did they take advantage of things? Did they shoot themselves in the foot, or did the other team just beat them? Did they just get beat by a great starting pitcher that day? I think that for the most part, April, we shot ourselves in the foot more often than not. I don't think it was teams necessarily beating us. I think it was more self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough to not stay in the present because you start looking down the line, but you really have to take it one game at a time. Stay right here. We've got several left with the AL Central. I think this is a critical week in Cleveland, in Detroit, and then kind of see where you're at. Maybe after that, but Grifol has mentioned, that he doesn't look at standings. He doesn't really know how far back. I think he really tries to stay in the here and now. And I think that's a beneficial message for the White Sox these days, especially. Like it was a deep, deep hole. This has been a fun week. 5-1 on the homestand. You got your first sweep. Again, it was the Royals, but the Royals ate our lunch, in recent memory. So for you to be able to just take care of business, really what it is, take care of business in front of your home crowd and turn in some fun baseball. Like home runs weren't flying out of the yard this past weekend, but there was some good pitching and there was some timely hitting when we needed it.
Yeah, it's much better to talk about these types of games, Nick, and it'll be interesting to see what happens as we go out to Cleveland. I think Cleveland just got swept in a doubleheader against the Mets today, so they played a late game today. They're turning around, coming back, and playing tomorrow after 2 today. We've got our undecided as far as the starting pitcher, as far as I can see, and we talked about before. So it'll be very critical to continue to play well. This is now as on the road. Today was for me, like a must-win sweep situation. I'd love to say that's the situation for the next couple series, but you're on the road. You just got to find a way to win series. It doesn't matter how it gets done. You just got to find a way.
Yeah, I just want to see quality baseball. Fundamentally sound. Monday could be interesting with what arm gets thrown against Cleveland. I think we're going to miss Bieber in the series, but again, like we'll have to face Jose Ramirez and probably Josh Naylor, who I don't think Naylor has impressive numbers, but he just seems to, show up and do damage against the White Sox, over the last couple seasons. So before we head off, Oscar Colas, man, he's been looking like he should be ready to come up and reclaim his right field. I don't know if that's going to happen, Pat. I just don't know. I think you've got too much going on right now on the South Side.
Yeah, it's an interesting conundrum. I guess you're looking more at, we talked about trades before. If does it finally the opportunity to strike while the iron's hot on one of these guys that you could move while their stock is high? I'm talking more about one of these position players that you just can't fit on the field at the same time. So yeah, I think Colas, it's like, as long as the we're moving in the right direction in terms of winning series and, like it was this past weekend and sweeping, you just let him get his at-bats and do the best he can down there. And, in case of emergency, break glass, but I wouldn't change things up for the sake of changing them up at this point.
Yeah. It feels like he's kind of stuck now. It's like you got demoted, and I don't even know if it was your fault to begin with. You probably were in a situation that should have never happened. But that's the White Sox way. And now it's like, I don't know how you're coming back at this point. So something to keep eyes on. Hopefully we see Liam Hendricks soon. And, no other injuries to the starting rotation. That would be nice. And keep the winning ways going, Pat.
Yeah, keep it continued. Thank you and sorry for anybody that was trying to get us to 8 o'clock. We had to move back to 8:30, but great show, my friend. Let's continue to talk about some winning baseball. And again, 10 games under, but 6 games back, or whatever it is, 6.5 back. There is life. We have a pulse. The monitor hasn't gone flat yet, so let's just keep enjoying it and hoping that we have more wins to talk about next Sunday.
Yeah, it's just a better brand of baseball. It's fun. Obviously, winning does that, but I definitely like what I saw this past week. So, always a pleasure, buddy. We'll do it again next Sunday.
Cheers.
Folks, thank you so very much for making this a part of your weekly entertainment, I guess, in terms of podcasts. The product hasn't always been great on the field this year, so thanks for hanging with us. We are in season 5, believe it or not. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, check us out live, or go back and watch these videos at your leisure. Where audio is available absolutely everywhere. We're on Twitter at Good Guys TB. We've got a Facebook fan page. For Pat Hester, I am Nick Murawski. Until next time, go Sox.